Study 8. Say no to perfectionism. I like to hire perfectionists. They're people who usually get stuff right. They're people you can count on to deliver great work almost every time. They do much more than I would ever ask of them to ensure excellence. I love these people. Their work advances the school I lead far beyond the price of their labor. Unfortunately, though, they pay the price, and I have to remain vigilant to keep them from burning out. I tell them what I'm telling you right now. For all the wonderful things our perfectionism offers, it's often unnecessary. Sometimes it's even detrimental. In our work, we need to adopt a healthy theology of good enough and move on to something else that matters more. Granted, there are times when our work needs to be completely error-free, but not every task needs to be performed at that level. Recognize that good enough is a relative standard that depends on the task at hand. Sometimes 80% of our best is actually better stewardship than 100%. That 80% principle applies in other contexts as well. Consider the household. Our house does not need to be perfectly clean. Ever. Not even when we're expecting guests. If a guest raises an eyebrow, just tell them, sorry, we live here. Similarly, our lawns don't need to be weed-free or perfectly manicured. God put us on this earth to do many more important things than get the house or the lawn just right. Our meals don't need to be perfectly cooked either, or served at the perfect temperature. Here again, we should adopt a different definition of good enough, and we will if we just be genuinely grateful for the food and pray for those who live on one meal a day. It's amazing how a little perspective will open our eyes to how trivial our mealtime concerns are. Our clothes, our hair, our bodies. Many people invest lots and lots of time in these things to get them just right. Why is that? More to the point, why does it happen to people who nod when Jesus says, I tell you, don't worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear? It's usually because we allow our self-image to be driven by what others think of us. For example, you may feel worthy of love and respect only when you perform with perfection or when you look perfect. Sometimes this happens to people whose upbringing made them feel incompetent or ugly. Or your perfectionist tendencies may simply be the result of an unhealthy, even prideful focus on your reputation, on gaining good standing with others, on people-pleasing, as the Apostle Paul puts it, doing things primarily for the approval and acclaim of others. Notice again that the belief underlying our perfectionist tendencies is that our value as a person depends on what others think of us. Let's set one thing straight. That's nothing less than Satan's lie. And it's a lie that will keep you in chains, in a perpetual state of anxiety, impatience, guilt, and overload. The antidote is to believe, finally and forever, the familiar bedrock scriptures of God's unconditional love, regardless of your accomplishments and despite your flaws and failings. God loved you so much that He gave His only Son for you. There's no condemnation of you if you're in Christ Jesus. Come to me, Jesus says, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. There's no need to be a perfectionist, these scriptures indicate. Your value has nothing to do with your accomplishments, your perfection, or what others think of you. The second pill in God's antidote is to respond to His unconditional love by choosing God-pleasing over people-pleasing in everything you do. When you work, when you drive, when you shop, when you talk to people, when you experience some injustice, when you give, when you pray aloud, when you decide what you'll do with your day. Take seriously the calling to be exclusively a God-pleaser. Am I now trying to win the favor of people or God? Writes Paul. If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a slave of Christ. Follow Paul's advice, and everything will be different in your life tomorrow. We live in a world that says, be concerned about what others think, and then they'll love you. We worship a God who says, be concerned only about what I think, and I already love you. If you're a perfectionist, why not put those gifts to good use and seek perfection only in His eyes? You'll be surprised how that can lighten your load.
Think about it. If you have perfectionist tendencies, write down why you're working so hard to get everything just right. Is the real driver to get others to think well of you? Careful here. It's easy to say no to this last question when the reality is yes. So you may want to talk this through with some people who know you well and whose opinion you trust. For group discussion, whether you'd label yourself a perfectionist or not, consider the central question in today's study. Is people-pleasing part of what's driving your busy, overloaded schedule? If so, write down and share a few specific examples of when this has happened. Talk to God about it. Perfectionist tendencies are both an asset and a liability. Take some time right now to thank God for these tendencies and ask Him to help you to use them wisely, that is, when they're necessary. Ask Him also to help you see when your perfectionism is getting in the way of more important things and when it's encroaching on the quality of others' lives and your own. Your Freedom from Busyness Plan, Part 8. What are 3 things in which you invest lots of time to get just right when perhaps from God's perspective, they don't need to be just right? What's your plan for using the 80% principle for the 3 items on your list?